This is Penn Woods interviewing for the Oklahoma Living Legends, and we're in Pawnee, Oklahoma on June the 1st of 1979, and I'm visiting with Emma McGuire and Myra Eppler. These are sisters. They were both full-blood Pawnee. They grew up on the Pawnee Reservation here. They, I believe that their parents came here for the to the reservation. Is that with their father came with the so we'll be talking about some of the experiences on the reservation. I believe I will talk with one and then the other, and that I believe will make it easier. Which is Emma McGuire? You are Myra Eppler. So we will start first by talking with Myra Eppler. And I'd like to ask you, you were born on the reservation, is that right?
Yes, in the territory.
In the territory. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you can tell me something about, to begin with, the name of your father and then your mother's maiden name.
Well, my father's name was Lone Chief. He didn't have no first name.
Lone Chief.
Lone Chief. Mm-hmm. And my mother's name was Jenny Comanche Chief.
Jenny
Comanche Chief.
Comanche.
Mm-hmm.
You mean Comanche spelled like Comanche Indian?
Yes.
She was Pawnee?
She was Pawnee, but that was her name.
I wonder how Pawnee would get the word Comanche.
Well, I don't know that this from her father. It's called Comanche Chief, and so.
And I wonder if you can. Now, you attended the Pawnee Agency boarding school.
I did.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the Pawnee Reservation as you first remember it, what it was like.
Well, when I had spent, you might say, before I went to school, but the town was already settled here. And the boarding school had been running for years before I went there. And we just went to school there. Boarding school. We stayed there 9 months out of a year.
Were you living in Pawnee or in the reservation?
Well, we don't have no reservations. We're all just, allotments. Uh-huh.
But the allotments, but it was the allotments were they pretty much were they mostly Pawnee who were living here then?
Yes. This is a Pawnee area.
Were there any others other than the Pawnee?
No, just the Pawnees lived there.
Now, tell me something about the boarding school, what it was like.
Well, when I entered, they had a girls' building and a boys' building. And of course, we had our dining room where we had our meals. In our classroom, we didn't have very many classrooms. We met in our auditorium, and maybe 2 classes at the time would be in there under one teacher.
Under one teacher.
Mm-hmm. But we had to learn first when we went to school our English. We spoke our Pawnee language, and we had an interpreter in the primary department, First, we had to learn our English. I didn't know what yes, no meant. And she told us what to interpret, what the teacher was telling us. And that way, that's how we learned our English.
You grew up in the Pawnee language?
Yes.
Today, do you think in English or in Pawnee?
I speak both at times.
I see. Which do you do best now?
Oh, our English. They took that Indian language away from us, and we kind of lost a little of it. But you talk to one another with my sisters. They talk Pawnee, and we get together and talk. We're getting it back again.
But you're supposed to talk English in school.
We did.
How many students were in the school?
Well, I couldn't tell.
Very large.
It was. Well, not so very large. Mm-hmm.
Who were some of the people who, in Pawnee group who stood out in your memory? Some of the leaders who stood out in your memory?
The Pawnees?
Yes.
Well, now the Pawnees are divided into 4 bands, and we happen to be the Skidee. And in the Skidee band, there was a person, my dad was one of the chiefs there, and they had Frank Leader, Brave Chief, and there was some that were scouts, that kind of was outstanding. But
Was your father born here?
no, I couldn't say where he was born because the Pawnees traveled. They traveled from, probably he was in Texas or New Mexico now, but he did, and the boy was in Nebraska. Mm-hmm.
How do you recall in your schooling any of the experiences? What were some of the activities that you had in school?
Well, we didn't have no basketball or anything like that. Probably just baseball that we played among ourselves.
Did you play any other schools or any other teams?
No. They just kept us pretty close around school.
What about your scholastic activities? You have what they call literaries in the Pawnee?
At the school?
Yes.
No.
You have the spelling bees?
No.
You did not have those.
Well, we had some kind of, like, programs, some kind of programs.
Now, you lived there on the campus. What did you do when you weren't studying?
Oh, played dolls. Dolls and pieces. We didn't have no dolls, but we made our own rag dolls and acorn dolls.
What would you eat? Did you have a general?
Oh yeah, we had a kitchen and dining room. We worked in each department. We had to do there was girls detailed in the kitchen, in the bakery, and then the laundry department. Some were house girls, and the dormitories, some clean, in our classroom. Yeah,
Who ran the school?
Well, at the time I entered school, Mr. Harvey was the superintendent.
Was he Pawnee?
No. These employees were all...
They were all government?
They had to pass the civil service.
Mm-hmm. They were government employees?
Yes.
Did you have any Pawnees among the teachers?
No. No, not during my term.
Not when you were there. Now, did you go all the way through school in the Pawnee Indian School?
No, you see, we had to learn English, and then when we got certain age, they gave us permit when we could become 14 years old that we could choose any of the largest Indian schools, and Haskell or Chilocco. Well, I didn't choose Chilocco, but I had to go to Chilocco because it's just the closest. My dad wouldn't let us go to Haskell because it's too far, and he chose Chilocco for us. And that's where I went.
Now, of course, the Haskell was where...
Lawrence, Kansas.
Yes. Tell a little about Chilocco.
Well, it was already been running quite a while, and they just had everything there. And we went to classes and studied, geography and history and spelling and reading, and it's like a grade school.
Now, it was a mixture of the various Indian tribes. It was
not
Pawnee.
No, they were all mixed from Dakotas and down here in southern Oklahoma. That's where we first met Geronimo as prisoners, children that went up there.
Tell about meeting Geronimo.
Well, Geronimo was that mean Indian that lived in Arizona. And they couldn't, he was Apache, and they couldn't control him. So they had to, the government sent him to Oklahoma, around Fort Sill, and not very long I got to see Fort Sill. But Geronimo was from Arizona. and they had children that come up to the Chilocco school. They weren't any different than any other tribe. They just, because Geronimo wasn't going to be rude by them soldiers, I guess.
Did you meet Geronimo?
No, he was dead before. I did attend the school where he had his lookout, and I was just telling my sister that nobody could pass him because he sat on the south side of a canyon, and the road just led from the north side, just almost straight, had to go down through that canyon and up, and he just the opposite side on his little lookout. And he couldn't pass him. He was a smart old man. No wonder he sent him to Oklahoma. Shows how tough we are.
He died about 1980.
Was it? Mm-hmm. I didn't know him.
What things stand out in your memory of while attending let's say while attending the Pawnee School? What stands out as a highlight?
Oh, I don't know. I enjoyed being there, you know.
Did you ever get into any mystery?
Oh, yeah.
What was the worst mystery you ever got in?
Just like children, we fought at times.
What was the worst fight you ever got in?
I'll tell you one instance, but it wasn't my fault.
Okay. We won't blame you.
We were in a sewing room, and this dear sister was sitting right like we are, and we had the over seamstress. She kept saying there was others sitting there, and we were in lines in the machines, you know, and this party behind us was whispering, and she had warned them to quit whispering, and she thought it was me. And I was just sitting there, I wasn't paying no mind because we were sewing away what we had to make, and all at once somebody said in there, "Look out." And I looked up, and she was coming with a iron poker. She was going to hit me in the head. And I jumped up to keep her, to take the poker away from her. And she had a table that she cut material off on, and then another little table, and she had it under the big table, and I scuffled with her to take that poker. And that little table hit her right in the knees. And of course she had to let go. And, well, she told one of the little girls that was sitting in the corner darning stockings to go and get the disciplinarian. Well, she didn't go, so she asked one that I always took up for. And she jumped up and ran to get the boy's disciplinarian. And he come and said, "Well, take him away, take her away." And so he took me and said, "Well, I put you in jail." And there was a little jail on this south of the girls' building. And he took me there and said, "Now, let's clean this jail out." And so I cleaned it out, and you know what? I think of it, I could have got away from him and went down to the agency. Or even when I think of it, I think, well, I should have just took him and asked him to go down to the agency with me. And he locked me up, and I stayed there till supper time, and then she come and told me to apologize to the students. And I said, I had nothing to apologize. And the one that was doing the whispering, she never did get out of that habit of whispering. And I knew who it was, but I wouldn't tell her. That's how I landed in a jail.
I'm sure that was all the other girls. We'll all agree to that.
Oh, I imagine about maybe 12 or 13. I would, if somebody, she would have lost her job, you know, if I had went down there and reported.
What was the most exciting thing that happened to you when you were in school?
Fire drills.
Fire drills. Tell about some of the fire drills.
Well, they practice on a fire drill, you know, in case of fire. Well, at night we'd be all at once the bell would ring, and the matron taught us how to roll our clothes and put them at the foot of our bed. And when we hear that bell ringing, we had to dress before we went downstairs. We had to practice in dressing. And we got dressed and got out of that building. Marched out of that building. And I thought that was exciting. And then way in the midnight, have to roll out. And we really did have an excitement when the boys' building caught a fire. Well, we had, I don't know, they say it was from the boys' uniform room. Caught a fire, and then just had a start down the basement. And had to get them boys out of their dormitories. And it happened that Mr. Harvey, the superintendent, was living in that building, had rooms in that boys' building, and he had put in the fire. And there was a blind boy there, and two of the boys were punished in the basement and locked up in the basement. And that blind boy knew that they were down there. When they all run out of the building, why, he went down there and saved them boys in the basement. And that building just went down.
That one.
Well, let's see, that was before, around about between 7 and 8, 1907 and 8. Because that boys' building was built in 1980.
Now, what about your land ownership? When did you got your allotments? I guess about I guess the family had allotments by the time you were born.
Well, my older sister was old enough to get allotment. But see, the last allotment was in 1993, and I missed out on that. I didn't get allotment, but the folks all got allotment.
What were the subjects that you studied in the school?
Oh, reading, spelling, geography, and history. And we called it nature studies at the time.
Natural.
Yeah.
Now when you graduated, then you went to Chilocco.
No, I didn't graduate.
Oh well, when you left there, you went to Chilocco.
Yes, when I was.
Did you graduate from Chilocco?
No.
You didn't.
I left when I was 14 from the boarding school, and I had to sign up 3 years for Chilocco. So I signed up 3 years, and when the spring of 1912, my time was expired, so I come on home, and then I signed up for 5 years to Carlisle, Pennsylvania. So that's where. And at Carlisle, we had the same citizen. See, this was an army post at Carlisle.
It is now.
It is now, but it was in the Indian School.
Right.
Yeah, it's in the, but it was
Now the Army War College.
yeah. And we were there 5 years, but I didn't stay there. We had an outing system. People that around the surrounding of Pennsylvania or New Jersey that wanted to have an Indian child, in their home. Well, they sent the matron, that field matron, she signed us to different homes. And, of course, we went on our own free will too. And they just took us in as their own. I lived with the Quakers almost 2 winters.
You were at Carlisle about 1912 and 13.
I went to Carlisle the fall of 1912.
Now, that's about the time that Jim Thorpe was there, isn't that right?
Well, yes.
Was he there when you were?
Mm-hmm. In the last part of the...
Do you remember him?
Jim Thorpe?
Tell me about Jim Thorpe.
Well, we didn't go about our tribes. We were everybody from the west of Mississippi. They called us the Westerners. And Jim Thorpe was playing football at the time. But I knew of him before I went there, because at Chilocco. I stayed one summer at Chilocco and his sister was there. Jim Thorpe's sister stayed that summer. And she got letters from Jim Thorpe when he was at, some kind of bridge in, across the waters, he was over there. And she'd get letters from him, and we'd finish our work, and we'd go out and sit out on the south side of the building. She'd read her letter to me, and it seemed like I already knew him. And his sister. So when I went to Carlisle, I was surprised to meet Jim Thorpe, but he was just common.
What do you remember about him? Do you have any remembrances that might be of interest about Jim Thorpe?
No, was so many of the students, you couldn't learn anybody, and I didn't.
You don't remember anything unusual about him other than the fact that he was a very unusual athlete?
Yeah, right? He was a good athlete.
You ever have a date with him?
No, I was just a greenhorn. No, I think he was there just about a year after I was there. He got married there, I did attend his wedding in the school, Had a big blowout and dance.
Tell about that wedding.
Oh, I don't know where they got married, but they did at the auditorium, gymnasium it was. We had a big dance that night, and all the students were there.
Big crowd.
Mm-hmm. So that's about all I know about them. And then they left, but I don't know when they left after the dance, but that's about all I know about it.
Well, it was fairly shortly after that he was in the Olympics. That was 1916 Olympics that he went to.
Well, no, it was before because I was in Chilocco that summer of 1911, and that's when his sister's name was Headline, and I was there.
But he went to the Olympics before the Olympics?
Yeah, because he got letters from there.
Yeah.
Strawberries, is it a place? I don't know, but remember, but it's some kind of bridge there. He was there because he got mail from me.
Do you recall any other well-known personalities in one field or another other than Jim Thorpe that you were in school with?
Well, there was a fellow named there was one Eppler, Arizona boy, but I wouldn't know his name. I just knew, and I didn't know very many of them. But I did work in, they had a special cottage where they stayed, and I was detailed there to work in a dining. And I waited on tables, but they all was big shots, and I was just a little servant, right? I didn't talk to them much.
How many students about were in the Carlisle Indian School? Pretty big.
It was a pretty good, large school because they had an island system too, and no telling. One summer we were there, they called all the students in, so we didn't have enough room in the girls' building. We just took mattress and slept around on the porches. Till the country part of it, we call it the country part of it, till they left, and then we got normal there. So many of them went back to their homes, country homes, we always call them.
What, from Carlisle then, where did you go after you left there?
Well, I come on home 1917.
Had you graduated there?
No, I didn't. We all went to school in New Jersey.
What was it?
At Morristown, New Jersey. I was at, my country folks were Quakers, and they sent me to the public school there. But I didn't finish up.
Now, so when you got back from Carlisle, then what did you do?
Well, I was here the spring of 1917, and I didn't do till about 1918, I believe, around about May, I think May something, I entered the nurse's school in Baptist nursing school in Muskogee. And I stayed there till I got nervous breakdown, almost got nervous breakdown. Working, we were pretty busy and running 3 operating rooms, and it ain't like these hospitals. We had to make our own supplies and run the sterilizer and everything. And I just got nervous.
So what did you do?
Then I quit and I took up a telephone office work.
Tell about it.
Oh, I just,
Pawnee,
no, in Muskogee.
go.
I was,
How big was it?
it was a pretty good,
That was about when, 1920?
around 18 and 19.
19.
18 and 19.
Quite a few telephones by that time, wasn't there? But everyone went through operators. Is that right? No one could dial.
They all died, then.
You dialed?
No,
Right.
they just,
They dialed you. You put in the number.
yeah,
That-
plugs in.
Yes. That hand. You know how many phones you had when you were doing this?
No, I don't. We just had a board that's so wide and all that.
Did you have the whole town on your board, or were there
No,
others?
no, huh?
Just the four. How would you know when a call came in? How would you know which board to call it in?
Well, there's a board and the lights would come on
Yeah.
and then we just plug in our plug, say number please, and they answered what number they want, and you just plug into their number. I told my preacher one time, he was talking about what we just did, I said, well, I was a hello girl, and I forgot to take it that tell him a telephone girl. And the hello girl is one of these. I never did tell him that, right. I guess he just thinks I was a hello girl. Then I quit and tried my luck again. Went to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Fayetteville. And took the hospital there. I don't know how it spells.
Not
No,
Batesville.
it's in Arkansas.
Yes. Not Batesville.
It's a big college there.
Oh, Fayetteville. Yeah. You went to Birchburg.
Well, the hospital was
Oh,
there.
to the hospital. In
I went
Fayetteville.
to the hospital,
Yes.
but then they took us to the college when we had to have some kind of lessons.
Now, was that the hospital up on the mountain?
Yeah. They had tacks on their shoes, the heels, We didn't understand why they did us off the rocky. I didn't stay there long because I didn't like it.
But that Fayetteville hospital was a government hospital, wasn't it?
No, it was a white hospital.
Why?
A white hospital.
Yeah, it was a government hospital, wasn't
I don't know whether it was the government. I didn't stay long
it? What
enough.
were you doing there?
No, I entered the hospital to continue my nursing, but
I see.
I was all right as long as I don't see the knives. And whenever I got to see the knives, I got me.
Got swinging to that.
So
Tell me about what did you do after you left Fayetteville?
well, I went to, I believe I went to work for Miss Alice Robertson.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and then I went to Fayetteville, and then I went to the telephone office.
Well, let's talk about Alice Robertson. Alice Robertson was she congresswoman, but before. Well, now was she a congresswoman, or at the time that you worked for her, or was it before then?
People, I was working for her when she was running.
Did you work on her campaign?
No, she owned a cafeteria, and I was working in the cafeteria, and she had a colored fellow. She called him Chocolate Drop, her little chocolate drop, and he took her around to campaign, and sometimes she had to take the plane, and nobody thought that she would win, but she surprised me. She won and went to D.C.
She was a Republican, and she came in during the kind of a Republican overthrow after World War One.
Mm-hmm.
But she was also had the distinction of being the first woman, and I believe, well, I think that, I don't just believe it, she was the only woman congressman from Oklahoma.
I think so too. But see, her folks were missionaries among the Cherokees, and she was raised right around there. And the farmers all knew her. That's what put her over the farmers. Mm-hmm.
She came from the Cherokee Mission. Now, Alice Robertson was a fabulous photographer.